On this day, 25 July 1909, a fragile aircraft took off from the French coast without a compass or a clock. Here's the story.
It is the early morning of July 25, 1909. A heavy, freezing mist blankets the French coastline at Calais, obscuring the sea and soaking the grass of a makeshift airfield. Out of the damp darkness steps Louis Blériot. He is limping heavily. Just days earlier, an engine test went wrong, leaving him with severe burns across his foot. Every step toward his aircraft sends a jolt of agonizing pain up his leg. Looking at this view from the pilot's seat, you can see what he is relying on for this crossing. The dashboard is just a curved piece of bare wood. There is no altimeter, no clock, and critically, no compass to guide him. The risks, the 25-horsepower primitive engine is cranked. It sputters, then gallantly erupts to life, kicking up a blinding cloud of salt, sand, and exhaust while deafening everyone on the field. Bleriot is tying his fate to a machine made of stretched canvas and piano wire, trusting his own broken body to physically force it across 35 kilometers of hostile, freezing ocean. The moment the wheels leave the sand, the scale of the danger becomes clear. Below the frail silhouette of his monoplane, the English Channel churns, a dark, massive expanse of turbulent water ready to swallow the aircraft whole. Unpredictable coastal wind shear immediately slams into the airframe. The wooden struts groan, and the fabric wings begin shuddering violently under the aerodynamic stress. To keep the plane level, Bleriot has to wrestle a heavy control stick and actively press his burned foot hard against the rudder pedal, fighting through the blistering pain with every gust of wind. He has zero telemetry to tell if the engine is overheating or the frame is cracking. He must listen to the mechanical roar of the pistons and feel the aggressive buffeting through his seat to gauge the health of his machine. Suspended above the water, there are no backup systems or safety nets. Keeping the aircraft airborne relies entirely on his physical stamina and raw instinct. 10 minutes into the flight, the weather collapses. The plane plunges directly into a thick, milky white fog. The sky and the sea blur together, and the horizon vanishes completely. Without a visual horizon, fluid in the inner ear sends false signals. Your brain cannot tell if you are flying level, banking, or diving. Fighting vertigo without a compass, a drift of just 3 degrees means Bleriot could miss the English coast entirely and vanish. The heavy moisture in the air shifts the acoustics of the flight. The deafening roar of the engine becomes oddly muffled, leaving a loud, high-pitched whistle as the wind tears through the exposed bracing wires. Inside this white void, the pilot's own brain becomes his greatest adversary. Without a horizon, every physical sensation begins to suggest a direction or a tilt that simply does not exist. Just as his orientation reaches a breaking point, the fog begins to tear apart. Golden morning sunlight floods the cockpit. Directly ahead, rising out of the water, are the massive white chalk cliffs of Dover. Finding land presents an immediate new hazard. Without a designated runway, Bleriot has to pilot his battered machine through brutal updrafts rolling off the cliffs, scanning the uneven ground for a survivable patch of grass. Down on the plateau, a French journalist catches sight of the incoming speck. He stands in the coastal wind, frantically waving a massive tricolor flag, serving as a desperate manual navigation beacon for the exhausted pilot. Spotting the colors, Bleriot forces the rudder pedal down with his burned foot one last time. He banks the plane sharply, threading through a gap in the cliffs near Dover Castle. He cuts the engine and drops from the sky. The landing is essentially a controlled crash. The wooden undercarriage smashes into the uneven English turf and splinters apart, throwing the plane to a violent halt. But as the dust settles, Bleriot climbs out of the cockpit alive. The entire crossing took exactly 37 minutes. Flying blind, in agony, inside a machine held together by wood and fabric, he had somehow survived. In just over half an hour, a natural water barrier that had guarded an island nation for millennia was bypassed. Bleriot proved that a single person in a fragile machine could now step over the most formidable natural borders on Earth.
The journey covered only about 22 miles. But it proved that the sea could no longer keep nations apart. Follow On This Day with Mara to discover another remarkable story from this exact day in history, tomorrow.